Today I'm going to teach you how to double spring like a pro. Now, a lot of people try to double spring, and what they end up doing is they end up either trying to use two springs that are the same weight, same size. They try to take a bunch of like thin coil springs and insignificant springs and make them do a higher yield, or they don't separate them properly. So I'm going to show you how to do it today. Today we're going to use some pretty die-hard springs. Well, I would say the 5K Retaliator spring is not that die-hard from Orange Mod Works, but this is directly interchangeable with an 8 kilogram Black Tactical spring, and you can use many of the springs. In this array, I have actually used the number 62 Hillman on the Bird of Prey, and that's 18 kilograms. Okay, and this is only 5. But this spring right here, which is an HPI Racing, Hellfire Red, is 11 kilograms. 11. So this is HPI Racing, model number 86555. 86555. Got it? So if you go to a hobby shop and you want to look for it, there it is. Why is this better than, let's say, a 7K strong arm spring? It's longer. It fits the 1-inch draw perfectly. Actually, it can fit 3/4 draw. Actually, this is perfect for king crushes. But the ends are flat, and it's a nice coated, powder coated spring. Lots of power, good power delivery. So your spring choices. Okay, so this is a 1.8 millimeter spring. Okay, it's a thick gauge spring. It is a spring, 0.072 gauge if you're talking about inches, that when you prime it, it's going to produce a lot of power. And this is your normal Orange Mod Works spring right here. Okay, just your normal Retaliator spring. We're going to make a Match Firestrike assembly for a man who bought it in Australia. He's been waiting for me to do a lot, but I've just been insanely busy. And how I make money is not views; it's actually commissions. That's how I stay in this hobby, and it supports, I would say, maybe 75 to 80% of my hobby. But because I'm in demand and the stuff I make is unique, I have a lot of work. My lead times are really long, but I do precision work. I mean, I will devote a whole day to somebody's project, maybe 3 or 4 on some projects. Like a Merlin takes about 3 or 4 days per Merlin to do. So let's begin, shall we? So the deal is, you have these two springs. They intercoil together. That's nice, but they can knock around. See, even if they're back here, they're still going to grind against each other. So this would create inconsistent velocities, also jam, maybe wreck your rod catch, your trigger catch. So what do you do about this? Well, the answer is real simple. You have a separator, and on the front of your plunger rod, I will show you that there's a separator there that maintains the distance between this spring and this spring, and that makes it so the springs never collide. And this right here actually makes it so that it anchors into the Firestrike, so it doesn't break the spring catch. So I had to hunt this down right here. This is the wrapper for it, metal hole plug. Everyone always asking, hey, do you got a link to that? No, because there's about 50 million things on the Home Depot or Lowe's site that call itself metal hole plug, or chair hole plug, or furniture hole plug, or whatever, and it's next to impossible to find. But these used to have a part number on here, and they don't have a part number on here. I don't know what happened. But Everbuilt is a Home Depot. Oh, here it is. The model number is 758498. There it is right there. So if you look for that part number, you should be able to find it. Otherwise, it's next to impossible to find. It's just like walking into a hobby shop and saying, hey, do you got a Hellfire, a Hellfire Red, HPI? What's the part number? I don't know. Yeah, exactly. It's annoying. It's annoying. All these people obsessed with part numbers. But let's begin, shall we? Now, the nice people are hobby people that used to supply the off-spec Retaliator spray because it was part of an XTM Racing spring 1/8 scale car. Actually, it was 1/6. Was it 1/6 scale? It was 1/6 scale. But anyway, they always would help look for it. But you go to any other hobby shop. Oh, I can't help you with the part number. Yeah. Okay, so here is your pull cap. I have to cut this out. I'll put that on video too. Here's your pull cap. So what you do is you take a pair of pliers. You may notice that the prongs are pointed inward. These prongs are going to help you. Watch. And you straighten each and every one of these out. There you go. Bend them in so that they are, well, not bent in, but straighter. Okay. And from here I can show you my point, why this is so good. So this is the 3/4 metal pull cap. If you get the 7/8, you can bend the prongs inward rather than outward, and it will do the same thing. Look at that. There's your retaliator spring. Are you watching? Let me bias this correctly. Hold on. Now you may notice this is slightly up because of this part right here, but you can also file these flat if you want to. On the black tactical springs, I do file this flat. I may do this for Graham, I'm not sure. Okay, so here you go. Graham's my customer, by the way. And here's the HBI Hellfire Red. Takes a little adjustment, but you will soon see what is so rad about this. I gotta put this on. It's that tight of a fit. It is that tight of a fit. It is a really tight fit. But that's what's so cool about it. Because once you have this tight fit, you have a precision measure of exactly where your springs are going. So this is a spring kit for a 16 kilogram Ultra Match Firestrike. And we're going to put a plunger rod on this too. Take a pair of pliers around this whole thing. Voila! Look at that. Perfect spacing between the retaliator spring and the HBI Hellfire. With this assembly, you can combine two springs and make them really powerful. Now, why two springs and not just one solid spring? Everybody always asks me that. Okay, for one, with two springs, you are no longer confined to, if you get a larger spring gauge, confined to a smaller size spring. Remember that the more thicker that each of these coils are, the more they add up on the closed space. On a Firestrike, you only have 1 inch of closed space. So to make the most of a design like this, you have to merge springs like this. Number two, it liberates you to have more pre-compression. Like, look at this retaliator spring. That's going to be a ton of pre-comp, and it's going to make that plunger just slap when it hits, which is good because I have spring-loaded, I have a spring-loaded plunger tube here, and so I'm never going to break this, and it's going to fire just immensely nice. I have a lot more control, also for customizing. Let's say, for example, I wanted to upgrade from a 16 kilogram to an 18 kilogram spring assembly, or 19 in this case. I can just throw a black tactical version 2 spring on there, and I can rip this spring out, throw a new spring in, boom, I'm good, I'm great, you know. But we do have one little problem. How's a plunger rod supposed to fit in that? We're going to go remedy that. Stay tuned. Okay, so I must point out something. This is not maybe the right way of doing cutting. But if I try to do it over a table, because my hands angles change and everything else, it's not as precise. The way you want to do it is over a table. You want to make sure that you're safe from this, okay? I had a stroke when I was born. It kind of affects how I do everything. A few people pointed that out last video that, this could go right through your foot. And I'm like, you know what? Unless it hits like a joint or something, I wouldn't feel it. You know, I've hit myself with this before. It happens. But the safer way of doing it is like over a table, protect the rest of you. You know, don't do it like I do. but the way I cut it, yeah, you know, like the actual cutting. So here we are. Here's our metal pull cap. But as you can see, there's no place for a plunger rod. So what do you do about this? Well, you take the place where the gap for the plunger rod is going to be. You grab those, and you take a pair of pliers. You hold it tight. Vice grips would work too, doing this, and you really simply once I have this, I mean that's hot. It shows you how dead my pain receptors are. Like if you were to touch that right now, you'd be like, yeah, like that. But I'm not me. There we go. Okay, our next move here is let that cool off. Okay, and we want to, instead of cutting that, we want to bend it and then cut it because we don't want to put two lines going over here. Well, that's cool enough for me, but it wouldn't be cool enough for you. So we take our pliers about to where our crease point is, right there. We don't want to make this too high or it's going to abrade our plunger rod. Also, we don't want to cut that because I don't want a sharp end hitting the bottom of the plunger rod. I want a rounded point. Okay, you'll see in a second. And you take this and you clasp it, okay, and you bend it. The straighter those two are, the better. Mine wasn't perfectly straight. It's enough. Voila. There it is. Now, what I'm going to do here, bend that like so. And I'm going to take this over here. And now I'm going to hit this end right here. Remember, if you're a young kid, get your adults' permission or ask them for help first to do it. Or you can hire somebody like me to do it, you know. Voila. I have to do things because of my nervous problems. I have to do things what is most comfortable for me to do. I don't have, you know, a lot of options that other people have. I know that sounds real stupid, but, you know, you're born with a stroke and you'll understand. So now I got this sharp edge right here. Okay, so I want to, see what I'm talking about. Coordination, right. I'm not exactly a total klutz, but there's this, you hang around me enough, you'll see it. I know it's hard for people to believe, oh, you're disabled. Yeah, right. You know, it's hard for people to believe that. Oh, you're like a really good modder. You're disabled. Well, what do you think I do this for? Because it's therapeutic for me to mod and to work with tools. Most of my tools are hand tools for this reason. Less dangerous. All right. Well, that will do. There you go. So then, it might be a little easier to see it now. Because now, check this out. Check this out. There's your inner spring right there. There's your outer spring right there. One spring containing another spring. But we're not done. So now I'm going to wrap these little pins, little barbs, that are made to hold the metal pull cap into the actual chair. It actually holds the outer spring. The inner one is snapped in there. it won't come out, especially since that's going to be compressed like that, okay? It doesn't come out. And with this, you have a good way to guide your springs without having problems with the springs bunching together or hitting each other. You know, you have much more levity with longer springs, thinner coils. You have a faster rate of spring. I tend to think that the bigger springs, they have more of a chance of setting. You could do it with one spring, but my customer did it with one spring, and his blaster was slower. There's a reason for that. And also, you're spreading your springs over this plate, so it's not going to break the inside of a Firestrike. Trust me, the part that breaks on a Firestrike first is the rod catch, and I've had many shells that were just intact. As a matter of fact, I reused them a lot of times on my Firestrike revisions. That's it right there. Look at that. Look at that. See that? Oh, it's gorgeous, I tell you. Just gorgeous. The pods. Believe it or not, that's all the trigger catch you're ever going to need. Dead serious. Dead serious. Okay, so we're going to test this all before. So my trigger catch, yeah, it's in perfect condition. My rod catch is in perfect condition. My trigger catch, look at how flimsy the spring is compared to that assembly. And believe me, it's going to be power. Now take that off, okay? And what everybody always has trouble with is getting those 3 tabs off. Everybody, I kid you not, I get at least one question a week, maybe every 1.5 weeks, sometimes more than once a week. Hey, how do you get those 3 little rivets off? Oh, it's so simple. It's so simple. I love tools that just disappear. Don't you? I do. Okay, so, not a big deal. What you do is you get the sharpest screwdriver you can find, carefully, okay, and you take your screwdriver and you pry each side of the rivet out real slowly. So like here, I'm going to pry this out, and then I'm going to turn to the next one, pry it a little bit, turn to the next one, pry it a little bit. A few cycles, and then I go to the other side of the rivet. So you see that? I'm just prying each side real slowly. Okay, so there we are. And give it a tug. Boom! There it is. Plunge heads off. You can see I broke this one. Not a big deal, because when it's put in epoxy, it is not going to matter. There's that. There you go. The next thing I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to punch a hole in here. Why? Because it adheres to the epoxy better. Yes, I did say it, epoxy. And punch through the other side. What I like about the Pink Crush is this is all reeded edges, and so what happens is when you have this plunger rod here, this plunger head and the plunger rod, and you go in here and you fill it with epoxy and you get rid of all the air voids, what happens is it interlocks into those voids. I really love the Pink Crush compared to the Firestrike. I know it's a girl's blaster, and people want the Firestrike because it's manly, but in all honesty, your Pink Crush and your Star Shot, way better than the Firestrike. The Firestrike is going to wear out on you because this is really soft. But like a Star Shot plunger rod, I've held like 40 kilograms with that. 29 and 32 reliably, I must add. So what you have here is then you keep the trigger catch in. Do look over it first, okay? And what you want to do here with your trigger catch is it's flat here. That's going to wear my catch really a lot. So I want to bevel this just a little. Not too much. Just a little bit of a bevel. Tear away the remaining edge plastic with your fingers. And just, yeah, that's going to be a lot nicer. This greatly extends the life of the trigger catch and the rod catch. The rod catch being on a Firestrike, the first thing that's going to break is this rod right here, this rod catch. And there's really nothing you can do other than make a homemade one. But like, let's say Venom's kit, for example, has this big, huge piece of polycarb right there. So if you try to dual spring it, it's too long to dual spring. and that becomes a problem because the dual spring won't allow this to be on here. Right. It won't allow you an inner spring. You can do an outer spring, but if you really want to twin spring it, and you're going to see how important it is to twin spring a Firestrike because you have so little close space. Now, on like a long shot, well, first off, you don't need a spring plate because you have a 7/8 will fit right here, and a normal long shot spring will fit right here. Even your Nerf Turf one that's coming out, your 8K Orange Wildworks, your 10 kilogram Orange Wildworks will fit here. And it will maintain, the outer will maintain the diameter on this spring, the inner will maintain the diameter on this spring, and it will hold it perfectly in place. So on like a long shot, and you also have 1 1/3 inch closed space, where on a Firestrike you have a lot more restrictions. But that's what makes it fun. The unexpected freaking sleeper. So now I'm going to put this in here. But there is one more thing. See these 4? And you know, I've gone through people where I've explained, you got to remove the 4 posts. Oh, okay. And then they try to put that on, and I was like, hey, Chris, it's not priming. Did you remove the 4 posts on the plunger head? Oh, what's that? That part where they... Oh. Yeah, you get what I'm saying. I don't mean to be over sarcastic, but you know. So here's the trick on these. You take your file, you line your file up to this edge, and you file it diagonally like so that you're not breaking it into this part that's going to hold your 3/4 spring. Watch. Not your 3/4, your 7/8 spring. So you just kind of grind all those out. Okay. So you want to go through it, get rid of all the scrap plastic on here. Okay. You do not want this to be tight. You want it to be loose like that. See? Alright, so now I'm going to put them together. And I'm betting you're wondering, how does this stay on? Well, this rivet's like totally loose here. And you even broke one. What do? You know? Right? Okay. So,